well. But welcome to the Old Faithful Inn, and when I talk about this building, I like to talk about it in terms of connections. I think this building connects us to other things, and on the basic level, it's connecting us to the natural environment around us. Look around the lobby here, you're looking at materials they brought from within about 5 miles of where we're standing. The foundation of the building was constructed of the same type of stone that's in the chimney. And this is volcanic rock called rhyolite. These are rhyolite lava flows surrounding us. Here at Old Faithful, they quarried this from the cliffs about 1 mile north of us, up behind Black Sand Basin. And just our lobby chimney by itself is 500 tons of that rhyolite. So those big bison we've been talking about out there, one male bison in Yellowstone, 1 ton. And this is 500 tons. So think about what 500 bison would weigh. The wood to construct the inn was cut about 4 miles south of us. This is lodgepole pine that you're looking at in here. That's what you've been looking at out there as well. In Yellowstone, about 80% of our forests are this one species of tree. Lodgepole pines grow straight and tall. When they reach maturity in Yellowstone, they average about 75 feet tall. If you don't know what 75 feet tall looks like, look up. Because this lobby, from the floor to the peak of the ceiling, we measure 76.5 feet. They built us to be the same height as the forest around us. Now, to make the branches of our forest inside, they sent about 5 men out searching for what one of the newspapers back then referred to as the freaks of the forest. And those are not actually branches, but the trunk of a different tree that was damaged while it was still small and flexible. Heavy snow could bend them or break them. Other trees fall on top of them. They're forced to grow around something, looking for the sunlight. My little signpost here, this is a bacterium that creates these bulbous growths we call burls. The men collected all these out there, laid them out here, and matched them up and used them decoratively throughout the building. Our construction on this building started in June of 1903. And for the summer of 1903, men worked hard to get the roof on the building before winter hit. But the hotel company wanted it finished and open for the next summer. So the men stayed here and they kept working through the fall and winter months. And the first guests were staying here by June of 1904. Building went up in just about 1 year's time, about 13 months' time. And that is wow to think about all by itself, but on top of that, historians believe we only had about 50 carpenters involved in our construction. Very small group of men pushing very hard to get it done that fast. Built by a private company called the Yellowstone Park Association. The president of that company was a Montana businessman named Harry Child. And to get the building constructed, Harry had to go to Washington. He had a meeting with the Secretary of the Interior to get the plans approved. He received a lease for the land, and he borrowed the construction money from the Northern Pacific Railway. Our final construction cost, 1903 to 1904, totaled $140,000. There's your bottom line there. That's about 3.8 million in today's dollars. I'd like to show you how big the building was when it opened. We're going to go out the front doors and across the driveway. We'll turn around at the yellow curve there so we can see the outside from the front.
Don't worry, we'll be right back to the video. It's just getting started. Just want to take a couple seconds to welcome you to my channel, Jones Knows, and ask you to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos from our recent trip to the Pacific Northwest, plus our other trips to Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, and the Disney area in Orlando, plus our everyday life, our work videos, where we do flooring and carpentry. So thanks for tuning in. Get back to the video. Hope you enjoy it.
It's so beautiful, you and me. meant to be in the great hour.
She does a good job. You'll like her.
Just got some folks coming through here. So we opened here with 140 bedrooms, and that included this high lobby in the center and a short wing in both directions going away from the lobby that contained the bedrooms on 3 floors. As you look to your left from here, everything you see in that direction from this spot is original. We got some more folks coming through here. If we can make a little gap here, they can get through. And then down to your right, the building ended behind that first tree. And you can see the roof line changing over here. Anywhere on this building that you see a steeply pitched roof, it was here when we opened. All of the additions have roofs that are flat. So when you're outside, look at those roof lines. We have a special name for this original part. We call it the old house. And the architect who designed it stayed on site through the construction. His name was Robert Reamer, R-E-A-M-E-R. Mr. Reamer was from Ohio originally. He was 29 years old when he got this job. He wasn't famous or well known. He was in the right place at the right time. And since he was so young when he designed it, it was possible for him to keep coming back over the next couple of decades. So he designed all of our additions as well. You cannot see the first wing he added from the front. It sticks out behind the geyser side of the building. He put the east wing on in 1913 to 14. Now that means that 9 years after we opened, they were adding another 100 rooms. Not only was the Northern Pacific Railway successful in advertising and getting people to come here, but 4 years after we opened, the tracks of the Union Pacific Railroad reached the west entrance. The town of West Yellowstone, Montana, grew up around that railhead beginning in 1908, and we got rooms for their extra traffic. If you're going out to West Yellowstone in your travels, there's a very nice museum in the old Union Pacific Depot, and the big dining hall is out there, beautiful stone buildings. Down to my right is the west wing. Reamer came back and added that wing in 1927. By that time, there were 5 railroads bringing passengers into the area, and Harry Child got 4 of them to sit down together and make him a joint loan to construct that second wing. We have not changed the size of the building since 1927. With the 2 large wings and the old house combined together, we currently rent 330 rooms inside the inn. Now before we go back inside, I want you to count the flagpoles very quietly for yourselves. I have a story to tell you about the flagpoles. All you need to know is how many are up there. We'll go back inside.
I'm just sitting here. I got time. It's clear to see from up here. The world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.
And by the way, I did have a question as we went out if we had any photographs showing how they got all those chimney stones up there, and unfortunately no. The only 2 known photographs of this building under construction are very early construction. You can just see the round log on the first floor. You can see the frame going up on the 2nd, 3rd floors, but nothing more than that, nothing in the lobby. What we do know is if you look at the chimney stones carefully, every one of them has a human bore mark right about the size of my little pinky on the face of it where they were putting the tongs in. And we also know that when they finished the Roosevelt Arch in Gardner, Montana, that the stonemason came down here to work on the Upper Geyser Basin Hotel. There are photos of the arch going up. and they show what the newspaper referred to as the motorized derrick. And they show that derrick being raised up on the scaffolding as the arch is getting higher. They're moving that derrick up. So my guess is that's what they brought down here to do the lifting of those heavy stones. Don't know what kind of a motor, most likely a steam-powered motor at that time period, but don't have any of those records. We have a little time capsule, however, that was found in this building back in the 1950s. It was found in the top of one of the flag poles. And the note was signed by 4 of the men who built the inn. The date on the note was April 23rd, 1904. Now, before I tell you what the note said, think about what it was like for them to work on this building through the winter. We start getting snowfalls here in the middle of September. By the end of October, the snow begins to accumulate, and this area averages about a 50-inch snowpack. And at the time the building was constructed, the railhead and therefore the closest civilization was in Gardner, Montana. So if they had a day off, where'd they go? How'd they get there? We think they were pretty much living here on site, working 6.5, 7 days a week, probably 10 to 12-hour days to get it done that quickly. So here is the censored version of the note, April 23rd, 1904. The note said, remarks, snowed like heck, drank 4 quarts of booze, can now see 118 poles. I'm hoping you counted 8. And behind the U.S. flag is the state flag of Wyoming. About 96% of the park is in Wyoming. There are 3% of the park in the state of Montana. Across the north, across the west side, so northwest corner is the state flag of Montana. 1% of the park in Idaho, so that's the one on the other corner there. The colorful pennants up there, they just chose colors that match with the flags that are up there and blend in nicely. And they are kind of a nod to what flew from the inn when we opened. If you look at original photos, big, long, colorful King Arthur flags, if you will, big striped long flags there. These are the original doors that were constructed for the building. We think they've always been this red color on the outside. That was considered to be the international sign of welcome. Now, I like to add in parentheses, you are welcome if you were a guest, and only if you were a guest. Very divided social structure in early Yellowstone. Our guests were the wealthy travelers coming from East Coast cities, European countries. They wanted to see and experience the wilderness. They had no interest in sleeping out in the wilderness. So this building opened with indoor electricity, indoor heat, indoor plumbing. For its time, it was a first-class hotel, and most of our guests had traveled to the park by train. That's why those railroads were out there financing our construction, but no railroad ever got permission to build into the park. They tried, but Congress kept saying no. So our first guests got off the train at the north entrance in Gardner, Montana. They paid approximately $50 for what was advertised as the grand tour through Wonderland. That $50 included their food, their lodging, and their transportation for a 5.5-day trip through Yellowstone. Took them 5 days to get around and see it all. They traveled on stagecoaches pulled by 4 horses. And every day they could travel approximately 30 or 40 miles, and that was it. So as the hotels went up around Yellowstone, they located them no more than 40 miles apart from each other. When you go back to your vehicle, pull out your park road map. You're going to see these little stretches of road. They're about 15 to 20 miles between junctions. Hotel, lunch stop, hotel, hotel, lunch stop, hotel. We're still using that same basic road system, and most of our travelers took the package tour. They could spend one night in each of the 5 grand hotels located along the loop, but if they wanted to get off and spend multiple nights in any hotel, they paid $4 a night. So there's our room rate from 1904. $4 in today's prices would be equivalent to $105. The $50 multi-day tour would be about $1,300, just to put that in our perspective right now. I'd like to show you another item the blacksmith made for us here. He did all the bedroom door numbers we're going to see going down the hall. big heavy latches for the doors, fireplace tools, andirons, that big clock up there on the chimney, a lot of little details. The most recent blacksmith who's worked on this building told me he thinks there were actually 2 of them doing the work, because he's identified 2 grades of work in the building, meaning we had a master craftsman and an apprentice working with him. We're going to go around the left-hand side of the chimney. We'll make our next stop right behind the chimney.
It's clear to see from up here. The world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful. You and me. We're meant to be in the great outdoors. Forever free.
They call it the Wilderness Lodge in Disney after this place, now that I see it. It seems just like the Wilderness Lodge in Disney.
And the door to the bear pit, it actually swings out into the lobby, so step forward so we're out of the swing of the door there. Yeah, I've heard somebody correctly identify this already as our popcorn popper. Oldest diary, no, that's what this is. Oldest diaries up in the park archives of visitors who stayed here. Several of them describe the popcorn being popped in the enormous chimney, passed around in big dish pans, and standing around the piano singing songs of the old days, whatever that was in 1904. Now around the front of the chimney there's a big chain with a hook on the end of it, and the hook actually goes through this ring, and that supports the weight of it. So when they actually laid it down and swung it in and out over the fire, they could shake it to keep the pop the popcorn. But this is a very hefty device, so it needs that chain to support it. Anyone would like to come up here and give this a lift, weighs about 30 pounds at least, so yeah, anybody who'd like here.
Wow, it's heavy.
Yeah.
That's without cord.
Yeah.
It's heavier than you think it is.
This isn't the oldest lodge here, right?
This is not the oldest lodge here. The Lake Yellowstone Hotel on the east side of the park opened in 1891. And it is our oldest hotel still in operation. The first grand hotel that was built in Yellowstone was at Mammoth Hot Springs. It was called the National Hotel. When it opened in 1883, we were the national park. So they called it the National Hotel. And that hotel is gone now. And then Lake Hotel would have been one of 3 that opened between 1890 and 1891. There was one at the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, 50 miles away from us, just south of Canyon Junction. And then there was one about 10 miles north of us, known as the Fountain Hotel. The Canyon and Fountain are gone. But basically, Old Faithful Inn, Lake Yellowstone Hotel, and Mammoth Hot Springs are the 3 that remain today of the big fancy hotel system that cater to the wealthy. Now we also have 3 historic cabin hotels in Yellowstone. They evolved out of the tent camping hotels. At the same time, our guests paid the $50 to stay in the grand hotels. You could get off the train in Gardner, and for $35 you could take a 6-day trip with one of these camping companies. They saw the same sights, traveled the same roads, but at night they slept in a canvas tent. And over time, those companies got permission to build wooden platforms with canvas over the top, and ultimately they became our cabin hotels. So Old Faithful Lodge, Lake Lodge, Roosevelt Lodge, they grew out of the tent camping way of traveling through the park. And I have a favorite story from 1905. One of our guests was sitting out there on the deck after dinner, and he could hear the camping company from 1 mile away. Their tents were in the geyser basin on the hillside above Grotto Geyser, but he could hear all the singing and the laughter, their evening camaraderie around the campfire. That sound was floating down the valley on the wind, and he wrote in his diary, how come they get to have all the fun down there, comparing it to the stuffy atmosphere back here. So this is the lighting as Robert Reamer designed it. We never had candles or gas burning in the inn. The building was electrified from the day it opened, and for the first 55 years, they produced the electricity on site with a steam generator. We believe they were burning wood in the boiler to produce the steam. We know for a fact they did not use the geothermal energy in any way inside this building. They'd already been using it in different ways around the area, and what they were finding is that the high mineral content of the water in our hot springs kept choking up their pipes. So as a practical reason they didn't use it back then in this building. It's a preservation reason we choose not to use it today. In New Zealand, for instance, when they built a power plant 20 miles away from a geyser field, it stopped geysers from erupting. And that's a decision we're choosing not to make in Yellowstone. But look at the light bulbs. Speaking of preservation, we're very excited that someone's finally producing an LED light bulb that looks like it belongs here. And this is a 4.5 watt LED light bulb with that clear globe and that golden filament. 2016, before we opened, 3 people kindly replaced 1,000 light bulbs for us so we could get up to speed here. We're going to see a radiator in the bedroom we're going to visit in a moment. Looks like it's original to the building. Looks like it's over 100 years old. It is 15 years old. That's when our heating system was upgraded from the original steam to a glycol-based hot water system. But they found a company that would manufacture these radiators to look old, but they're not. Some of you can see one of the new ones over here to my left. There's a couple down the hall, one in the bedroom we're going to visit here. And then we had plumbing in the building when we opened, but it was not in the bedrooms. The bedroom we're going to visit has 2 original pieces of furniture. There's a chest, drop front chest that's from 1904, and there's a copper-topped washstand. You'll see the towel bar across the top of the washstand. They would have had a porcelain pitcher and basin sitting on it so they could have water brought from down the hall to wash in their rooms. On the little shelf down below that has the towels folded on it today, they would have had a chamber pot so they didn't have to walk down the hall in the middle of the night. What we're going to look at here is an active hotel room. It is mine until 4:30, then the front desk gets it back. And for 1 or 2 people today, it rents for $167 plus taxes and fees. And we still walk down the hall for the bathrooms like they did when we opened. I think this building connects us not just to Yellowstone's natural history, but also to Yellowstone's cultural history. We're not pulling up out there in stagecoaches anymore, and I am very thankful every day that we don't have to dress like they dressed 100 years ago. But I think it's easy to come inside this building, close your eyes, and imagine what it was like when ladies put on their evening gowns for dinner. Gentlemen, you'd have been out there in full 3-piece suits and ties, and after dinner, they promenaded around out here in the lobby. One of the guidebooks from that time used the phrase to see and to be seen, and that's what this lobby is all about. Now, we're not out here checking out the latest fashions anymore, but we are definitely still people watching. That has not changed about this lobby. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go down the hall together as a group. We'll go into the bedroom about 5 or 6 at a time. If you stop at about 5 or 6, people have room to turn around and take pictures if they'd like. We'll get everybody through to look at the bedroom, and then we'll get back together and continue with the tour. So we're going to go around this way. is original. And this is the original wash stand.
It's the original deal.
That's just the original.
That's what she said. Where'd all the furniture come from?
Michigan.
Oh, Michigan.
That's the chest that's original, because it looks like a lot of the furniture that they're making today.
And I'm gonna have you go back through the group, just past room 8. There's a wide spot with a stairway in it. That's a good place to wait.
So do none of the rooms have bathrooms nowadays?
Most of them in the old house do not, but there are 12 in the old house that do, and everything in the wings has a bath.
So then when you go to the regular bathroom, there's showers and stuff? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Just back past room 8 is a wide spot in Hollywood. So we brought one of the original beds down here, talking about the beds. We brought one of the original ones down here for the centennial, and we didn't have any mattresses small enough to make it up. Actually, 3/4 size beds is what they were. So we had to make the bed up with cardboard and sheets just to make it look like a made-up bed there. I had a question about the furniture. That all came from Michigan, from Grand Rapids, from the Charles P. Limbert Company, Limbert, called his furniture Dutch Arts and Crafts. I'd say half the rooms in the old house have at least one original piece of furniture, and then a lot of that out there in the lobby is original to this hotel or other hotels around the park. So most of that lobby furniture, 1904 to 1911 time period. In the old house right now, we rent a total of 90 rooms. And of those 90 original rooms, there are 12 scattered throughout that have private baths. We have those 12 because those are the original bathrooms our first guest used. We're simply blocking the door that connects the hallway to the bathroom, and only one party gets to use the bathroom. And if you rent one of those, you don't get a shower because they all have the old claw-footed bathtubs in them, and one of them still has the tank toilet up top with the pull chain flush. In the wings of the building, all the rooms have private baths, so we're a combination of the more modern rooms in the wings with a private bath, and then the rustic rooms in the old house. Come on through here. If you're heading to the elevator, you're on the right path. We're just blocking traffic here. These days, we open on the first Friday in May, and we close on the first Sunday in October. And when we close in October, it's going to take our maintenance department 3 to 4 more weeks to get us buttoned up for the winter. They have to board up every window on the first floor to protect the glass from the snow that slumps up against the building. They drain all the pipes. They bring air compressors in and blow out all the heating and water systems. So no heat, no electricity, no water is left on. It's a dark, cold cave in here in the winter. Takes them 3 to 4 weeks to get us open in the spring because they have to do all of that backwards. What's open for winter travelers is the Old Faithful Snow Lodge right behind us here, and the Mammoth Hot Springs Hotel in the north part of the park. The National Park Service plows the road on the northern tier. Gardner to Mammoth, Mammoth to Tower, Tower to Cook City. That's the lowest elevation. That's plowed year-round. To get to Old Faithful in the winter, you leave your automobile at one of the entrances. We travel on the roadways on top of the snow in tracked vehicles, snowmobiles and snow coaches. If you happen to come through Gardner, Montana in your travels, or if you're going back through Gardner at the north gate, our snow coach fleet is currently lined up there right outside the entrance kiosk. What we've been using for the last 3 winters is a van with low pressure tires. These are monster tires that come up to about here on me, and they run 7 pounds per square inch in those tires, 7 PSI. And we're finding them much more fuel efficient and much quieter than the old track units, so that's what we've been using lately here. Although we have not been open in the winter, we've had projects going on in the winter, and most recently, between 2004 and 2008 for our centennial, we got a big birthday present from the U.S. government, which owns this building today. They did a $30 million seismic retrofit. And for 3 winters, we had contractors working in the building. 2 of our summer seasons were shortened to accommodate them being here. They replaced our foundation out from underneath us with a steel and concrete foundation. We have steel girders running under our floors that spread our weight out. There's big sheets of plywood under the floors. The upper parts of the building are frame construction. They took the outside walls and roof off, and they put steel and plywood in from outside. That plywood helps us move around as one piece and not a million different pieces out there. While that was happening, it seemed like a good time to upgrade heating, plumbing, and electrical systems. Hence these 15-year-old radiators, those were put in during that time period. They also took the opportunity for the first time in history to conceal the sprinkler pipes because the floors above us would have been removed. It was easy just to drill holes down through the ceilings to drop the sprinkler heads from above, and our pipes are running above us here. So we got our first sprinkler system in this building in 1947. Doing a little dance here. Another sprinkler head right there. They're hard to find. They like to disguise themselves as knots in this part of the building. Yeah, kind of dark in here too. Got our first sprinkler system in 1947. That was a retrofit. And I can still find places where the pipes were going into bedrooms and such around the building here and there. That system was upgraded in 1987, and when that one was added, they put, in addition to everything inside, a network of pipes on the outside of the building. And if you go behind us and look at the ridge line, you can see the pipe system on the outside. That's one of the things that helped save this building in the forest fires of 1988. On September 7th of 1988, a 200-foot high wall of flames roared over that ridge behind us. Firefighters who were here that day said the embers were the size of their hands blowing around out there. So the external sprinkler system was activated, hundreds of gallons of water is pouring off like waterfalls, just sheets off there. And that system on the roof was less than 1 year old at the time, so we're very fortunate that had been upgraded. Wow. So what I'm going to do right now is we're going to go up these back steps, and we're going to go back to the lobby on the second floor. If anyone would prefer to use the elevator, it's in the west wing. Right as you turn the corner in that newer section, you'll see the elevator directly ahead of you. Push the number 2 standing by itself to get to the second floor. We're going to go back to the lobby on the second floor. I'm going to talk a little bit about the steps that go up in the lobby, a little bit about the dining room. So about 10 more minutes if you want to continue.
Oh wow, you're
It
right.
actually goes 4 times a day.
Glue down.
I must have missed it. How many rooms total in the whole hotel?
330 is our current room count. Yeah, 330. We maintain 100% occupancy for most of our season. I think we are just hitting that right now. Although we opened May the 3rd, I think it's taken us until now to kind of hit 100%, and we will stay 100% occupancy through the end of October. Through the end of September. We're only open till October 7th, and that last week, you'll probably still get rooms the last week, but otherwise we run 100% occupancy. This is the hotel that everyone in Yellowstone, or everyone outside of Yellowstone knows about. So it's kind of the first one people ask for when they are trying to make reservations. And what we do with reservations is we start every year on May 1st, booking for the next season. So May 1st of 2019, we started booking all of 2020. So we're making reservations a year to a year and a half out. We're usually sold out about 6 to 9 months ahead of time. I always encourage people to keep checking. You must cancel 30 days out to get your full deposit back. So there are last minute rooms that pop up there. What I want to point out from here is on the opposite wall, on the 3rd floor, you can see over there an interesting set of steps. And if you keep following the steps with your eyes, you're going to see them disappear into the ceiling at the far right. And on the back of the building, there's a final set of steps outside. It goes to an observation deck on top. And when we open, guests could go up there to see the geyser basin from that high perspective. Today, when you try to go up there, you're going to find a locked gate on the 3rd floor. There's a sign at the bottom of the steps that talks about the damage that happened to that part of the building in the Hebgen Lake earthquake of 1959. All of that damage has been repaired. There's no structural problems keeping us out. It's the fire codes keeping us out. There's only one way up and down, and without a second backdoor exit, we may not legally open it. So it's our Bell staff who get to go up there. Part of their job is raising and lowering the flags on the roof. So now you know what job to put on that application when you're filling it out there. Just below the ceiling up there, there's a little structure that has its own roof on it. It has a door and a couple of windows on hinges that swing open and closed. In this enormous lobby designed to look like a big forest, what else can it be up there but a tree house? Yeah, also referred to as the crow's nest. And then right below the tree house, there's a square platform with a railing around it. One level down, I'm going to talk about that in our final stop. We're just going to go around here to look at the dining room.
It sucks you can't go up there, you know? That would be a cool view of the Old Faithful from up there.
Look, Joanne. That's usually what the kids are suggesting. Environment's cold. Yeah, blow up slide from airplanes.
I've seen that.
So we can kind of get a flow going so everybody has a chance to step out onto the balcony here and look at the dining room. As you're looking at the dining room, add a log wall on each side of the chimney. Just the front part from the fireplace back towards us is original to the dining room. And when we opened, they had long tables going off each side of the runner in the center. There was a bell mounted on the roof that was rung a quarter hour before dinner. Everybody came in at one time and sat down together. Big procession of food out of the kitchen. They ate family style, passing big platters up and down those long tables. This is where the musicians would have sat during dinner. This little balcony in the teens and 20s, they had a string quartet or small ensemble playing from here during dinner, and after dinner, they took their instruments to that platform right below the treehouse. And when the guests got back to the lobby, they found the carpets had been rolled up, the furniture had been pushed to the walls, and the whole lobby floor became the dance floor. Our first bar room in this building was in the basement. You may have noticed when we left the lobby, a little set of steps going off the west side of the lobby into the lower level. That's a storage and equipment area today. That bar room closed when Prohibition arrived, shutting all of our bar rooms. 20 years later, when alcohol was available again, Robert Reamer got another call. There's a picture of him on the two posters here. He was still working in Seattle. His final edition was over 30 years since he designed the original building, ended up being 2 years before his death at the age of 64. And in the back corner of our lobby, he enclosed a little courtyard. It's our snack shop today, and I invite you to step into the entryway of the snack shop where you will find 5 of the original bear pit panels. They wanted to have a little fun and celebrate. They hired an artist To do these panels, they did them on veneers of fir wood, and they're basically panels that depict bears and other park animals having a good time in bars and restaurants. So the original ones from 1936 are in the snack shop. And then we have a second set of cartoon panels over here on the left-hand wall. That set of glass windows, you actually have to step out there, look over your shoulder there. Those are 1988 reproductions of the 1930s cartoons. Believe it or not, there's documentation that says one of the designs was rejected because it was too risque. But my favorite one down there toward the far end, there's a bear who's waiting on the table. He's being distracted by the cleavage of one of the patrons. So the soup is sliding off his tray right down the shirt of one of the other bears who's shooting the seltzer bottle right across the room into somebody else's face. So they're very funny, drinking, dancing, partying bears. I think this building connects us back to those visitors from the past. Easy to imagine the music filtering down, everybody promenading out here in their finery. I think this building connects us to the park itself. Things that happen outside are reflected inside, right down to the squiggly lines in our logs here, made by the western pine bark beetles in their larval stage when these were live trees out there. But the most important connection is the one that you and I make to this building ourselves. For some people, that's a love of anything made out of wood and the look of it and the feel of it. We have architects and builders and engineers staring up there all summer trying to figure out in their own minds how and why this building is standing here. For some, it's a fascination with the construction. For some, it's the antique furniture. People respond to the radiators. People who grew up with steam heat in a house or a school, might be a historic house or hotel in your neighborhood from this time period. That might make your connection. My favorite connections are the family connections. And a couple years ago, a woman came to get her picture taken in front of our fireplace because she found a picture of her mother standing there. She found a second picture of her grandmother standing there. And at this point in her life, those two women were gone, and she herself was a grandmother. She did not want to miss out on getting her picture taken there. So whatever your connection, I hope you find one, and I hope it brings you back again. I brought you up the back steps. The main steps are over here behind the chimney, but thank you very much for coming on the tour with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Scott has come to join Tara for a last set here, so please enjoy the music while they're playing.
Yeah, we got it. That's what 5 o'clock was 5 o'clock.
I'm just sitting here. I got time. It's clear to see from up here. The world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. Meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free.